Good afternoon, my name is Michael Garcia. I'm with the Hispanic Vote, and we're continuing our series of interviews with our community leaders, elected officials, and judges here in Broward County. And specifically, we're focusing on the judicial system here in the county with these interviews and the importance of judges and the role the courts play in our day-to-day lives, whether you know it or not. And we have the privilege of having Broward County Judge Natasha DePrimo here with us. Thank you, Judge, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So before we even get into some questions and stuff, the judge is the first Asian American judge here in the county and I think in the state. Is that correct?
So I'm the first female Asian American judge in Broward County, and currently I'm the only Asian American judge in Broward County since Judge Singhal was elevated to the federal bench. And I don't think there's another Asian judge until you get all the way to Orange County, is my understanding. So all of South Florida, for sure.
Congratulations. So Yana, I want to get into a little bit of your background before we get into some questions. So we just talked about your heritage, but I believe you're Asian American and also Jewish, is that correct?
I am, yes.
Are you married?
I am. I'm married. I've been with my husband we've been together for 20 years. We were college sweethearts, and we've been married for 15 years.
And how many children do you have?
We have 3 boys. My older one, he's 13. He actually just had his bar mitzvah right before COVID, so we made it in right before the closures. And then I have an 11-year-old, and I also have a 9-year-old.
So this interview is occurring on Sunday, which is Mother's Day. And I just want to set it for the record, we didn't force the judge to be here on Mother's Day. But I bring that up because I want to show the dedication that the judge has. The judge was actually working today. She was working this weekend because can you please explain to the people how this works, working on weekends?
Sure. So I was actually the first appearance judge this weekend. That is on a rotation, so every judge in the county has a time period where they have the weekend, and this was my weekend. So you usually arrive around 7 a.m. To review all the probable cause affidavits that are for any of the arrests that were made during this time period. We review all of them, and then we hold court from about 8:30 in the morning until we finish.
And she just finished, so it's about 1:45, and she came over to do the interview. She was so gracious to come over, so it shows her dedication. So I want to get a little bit more into her background so we can know who these judges are, and specifically Judge DePrimo. Tell us a little bit more about your background, how long you've been in Florida, schooling, and stuff like that.
Sure. So I'm originally from Long Island, New York. My mother raised me on her own. She was a single mom, and my grandparents were a major influence, obviously, in my life because my mom needed the assistance. And so when my grandparents retired here to Florida, I was about 8. We followed them here, and so we lived here. I grew up actually in Jupiter, which is in Palm Beach County, just a little bit north of Broward. I went to Jupiter High School, and then I went on to college at the University of Miami, which is where I met my husband, and I graduated with honors from the University of Miami, and then I went on to the University of Florida Law School, where I graduated also with honors, and then we moved, my husband, he moved to Broward actually before I even finished law school, and when I came back from law school, we bought a home together in Broward County, and we've been here ever since. So going on about 15 years now or so.
So how long have you been a judge?
So I've been a judge about 1.5 years. I took the bench in December of 2018.
And how do you like that?
It's wonderful. I have the honor of serving the people of Broward County at the West Satellite Courthouse, which is in Plantation. I handle both civil and criminal matters. But the wonderful part about being a county court judge is that it truly is like the people's court, because every day the parties that come in quite often are not represented by counsel. So you get a real opportunity to speak with the constituents, to speak with the parties, and to really have their first encounter with the judicial system.
Is there something that you don't like, or is there something negative? Not negative, but what are the downsides of being a judge?
So I'll have to say I haven't found any downsides yet. What I would say is that obviously there are always cases where as a human you might feel sorry for the party, or you might feel that the situation is sad, but obviously the law is what we have to follow. Particularly in county court, we do a lot of landlord-tenant disputes, so in a lot of those cases, some of them are very difficult, and we have to follow the law as it's written. But what I do find is that often if you explain to people why you're making a decision, and you listen to them really attentively and listen to what they're saying, most of the time they will understand the outcome, even if it's not exactly what they want.
Okay. Before becoming a judge, can you tell us a little bit about your experience as an attorney?
Of course. So I actually worked in the field of eminent domain when I first came out of law school. I represented property owners doing eminent domain. Eminent domain is kind of a niche type of law, so it's a constitutional based law. When the government takes property for a public purpose, it's based out of the Constitution. So I represented property owners against condemning authorities when they were taking property. I did that for several years, and then I went into general civil litigation with my husband when my children were little. I did that for many years. And then probably about 10 years into my legal career, I wanted to expand my legal area of practice. So I decided I was going to apply to become a state attorney. So that's what I did. I applied to be a state attorney, and I was an assistant state attorney in Palm Beach County. And I was there for quite a little while and doing many, many trials, which was wonderful. But the commute was pretty hard. We live in West Davie, and so there were many days where I was driving back and forth from Palm Beach, and I wouldn't even see my children by the time I got home. So I did transfer to Broward County, and I was an ASA, an assistant state attorney here in Broward County. I was actually a supervisor in the felony division, and I also handled part of the felony diversion program. Prior to taking the bench, I was working at the Department of Transportation. I was their senior attorney in eminent domain. So my career kind of came full circle, where right before taking the bench, I was representing the condemning authority in eminent domain proceedings. And at that point, I had a more well-rounded experience, I think, overall. And I think I've done just shy of 70 or so jury trials. So it gave me a broad range for now as a judge, that I both understand criminal law and I also understand the civil aspects of the law.
You took a pay cut to go to is that correct, right?
Well, I think public service is important. I really thought the idea of going into public service and being able to help the community and learn a different field of law was worth whatever financial change it was going to be.
So, we're dealing with this coronavirus thing now. How has that affected the court system, and specifically you as a judge handling your cases? And before you even answer that, how many cases do you have?
So right now at the West Satellite, we carry just under 4,000 civil cases, and then I also have a criminal docket, and I also have an infraction docket. I will say that when people say, oh my goodness, you have 4,000 cases, are you not moving your cases? Actually, the majority of them are newly filed cases. So we do keep track. We do a lot of case management, docket management, to ensure that we are moving the cases along at a steady pace, to ensure that we're handling and resolving the matters quickly. And I really enjoy, being able to do both. So it's a great opportunity for me.
So I've asked this question of a few other judges, and I want to get your feeling on, what's your feeling on the practice of law moving forward post-Zoom, post-corona, with these Zoom hearings and so forth. Some judges tend to think that it's going to be part of our practice moving forward in some type of hybrid way. How do you feel about that?
So going back to what you had asked before about COVID, for me, as a mom, obviously I'm now homeschooling my children.
So not only you have to be a judge, you're homeschooling. Okay.
I am. So I'm homeschooling my children.
Where's your husband?
He's working too.
Is he homeschooling too?
He tries very hard.
He tries very hard.
But
Okay.
I think I'm the primary at homeschooling. But it's actually been quite nice to be able to have a balance of, being with my children, homeschooling, and then obviously doing work. It is very challenging. And I know it's challenging for many of the attorneys. And the Zoom hearings do allow us to have hearings that maybe we couldn't because the courthouse is closed. Even today, for example, when I was doing first appearances, that was all via Zoom. So if you think about how amazing that is, that you had 4 jail facilities, an attorney from the public defender's office, an attorney from the state attorney's office, private attorneys, a clerk, someone from confinement staff. You had all of these people all via Zoom, and we were able to handle court. So what I've found is that a lot of the civil matters can move forward without an issue, and I think that if we keep enabling folks to realize the benefit of the Zoom process, that I think that ultimately we'll end up having that be a large section of how we move forward post-COVID.
Okay. How do you think the pro se individuals have adapted to this? Some judges I've had a few judges say that they have been more adaptable and more surprised with their ability to do Zoom than the attorneys.
So I think I've had a little bit of a mix. Some of them, when we first began, when the courthouses first closed, we didn't quite have Zoom up and running, so we were doing a lot of things telephonically. That was a little more difficult. Now that we have Zoom, we've been able to hold, I think the numbers had just come out that Judge Tudor had indicated. We've had thousands of hearings now where the parties do appear via Zoom, and the Supreme Court has enabled us through their order to swear people in via Zoom as long as we have visual and audio. And I think that the general public has adapted quite well to it. If you think about it, it takes out waiting in line, waiting for security, having to take off significant time from work. I actually had a few folks appear during their lunch break at work, or they took a break while they were at work and they set up their computer and they appeared, and they didn't have to leave work or take any time off.
So moving forward, it probably gives individuals, or pro se litigants, or people that don't have attorneys a little bit more access to the court, because if the court adopts some type of hybrid in-person Zoom, you can have more people appear via Zoom sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that technology is really important to update and keep us with all of the fresh new types of technology that are coming out. And although COVID has had so many negative effects, this is one aspect of it that I think will enable us to move forward in the legal community. Utilizing this means that will allow people to not have to do all of the process of court, of coming and waiting their turn and going through security. Those are all the things that most folks that I've spoken to, they always say that that's the hardest part, getting to the courthouse, parking, going through security. All of that is eliminated if you're able to appear via Zoom.
And the anxiety of appearing in court,
sure.
And all that adds stress to it. Moving forward, when do you think we'll have access to the courts, or the courts will be open again? Do you know?
So I don't want to give a firm answer on that. I know that the order as of right now has the courts opening back up at the end of May. My understanding is that jury trials are suspended until July 6th. I always remember that because it's my birthday. So,
July 6th?
July 6th is my birthday.
That's his birthday as well.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
the little one.
Oh my goodness.
My little one.
That's your little one's birthday as well.
His birthday, my oldest is 7/11, and 7/6 is the youngest.
Oh my goodness,
Yes.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good birthday, I
Yes,
think.
it is.
So anyway, hopefully by then, I think what they're going to do is probably have to handle criminal matters first with priority with the jurors that come in. But I think it will be a slow process in the sense that we have to figure out how can we open the doors back up safely, make everybody feel safe and comfortable, getting in an elevator or sitting in a jury room, things that might not have bothered us before now may give people a little more anxiety. So I'm hoping that we'll have a plan, and I have faith in Broward County to make sure that we do it with a seamless transition the best that we can.
Tell us about your involvement in the community.
Sure. So I have a firm belief that young education is really important. Obviously, I'm a mom, so I have 3 small kids, but I feel giving back to the community as a judge, you're limited in a lot of ways on how you can give back to the community because of the canons that restrict us. So what I try to do is I get out and I try to teach as much as possible to young students, to high school students, law school students. I'm actually even certified to teach judges as well. So I've been certified to go ahead and teach some of the members of our judiciary certain topics as well. But to me, I think showing young, aspiring kids that this is somebody who is approachable and has a perspective that maybe they might be able to relate to, enables them to aspire to want to be more as they grow up as well. So I speak at all kinds of different school events. I speak at different mentoring programs.
You've had kids come to your courthouse with Ted Victor, right?
I did.
Okay,
I had. Mr. Victor is wonderful, and I actually just did with him. We did a Zoom one also where we did a kind of a panel discussion where we let the students ask us questions. I also had the Nova Middle School kids were set to come to the courthouse actually at the end of April. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we weren't able to do that. But luckily, I was able to reach out to the teacher, and we're going to do it via Zoom.
Okay.
And we're going to have a panel, and the students are going to be able to ask me questions and interact with me, and hopefully make homeschool a little more interesting than it was.
So, I was there when you gave your speech during your investiture, right? And you described yourself as a nerd. Is that correct? Right? Which is okay for judges, right?
Yes.
For judges, it's okay to be a nerd as a judge. So, you said that you get pleasure from watching the.
I watch the oral argument.
Yes.
I do. I will admit it.
Please explain a little bit to the public what it is.
Okay.
Well, the attorneys know, but we want to,
Okay, so I will admit that I am a little bit of a nerd. I love the law. I think it's so fascinating. I love the process of the law. And in the court system, obviously there are appellate bodies. And for county court, for example, the circuit court is our appellate body. And sometimes it can also be the 4th DCA. So the 4th District Court of Appeal is the appellate court for our particular circuit. So they stream their oral argument, and you can watch it online. And they also issue their opinions every Wednesday, which you can look up. Sometimes it's my favorite part of the week. But oftentimes what I like to do is I read the opinions, and then I go back and I watch the oral argument to figure out why it was decided the way it was, what were the arguments that were presented. I think it's fascinating, the entire process, and I hope that the general public will understand that laws are developed, and the judiciary makes rulings with regards to the laws that affect all of us. And so I just think for me, that's when I have any downtime, and I will admit it's usually right before bed. My husband makes fun of me quite vividly, but I do like to listen to the oral arguments of the 4th DCA. So now I'm going to blush because I know how nerdy that sounds, but I do enjoy it.
So for anyone that's not an attorney, that's basically her watching, for example, the Supreme Court of the United States, which they don't have that, but the Supreme Court doing oral arguments, and highly technical legal terms and aspects of the law that she watches. So I found that to be very interesting during your investiture. Is there anything else that you want the public to know that might be a little bit quirky or something that most people might not know about you?
Oh my goodness, something quirky about me. Well, so not a lot of people know this about me, but I am a surfer, so that's something that most people don't know. There are a few other judges in our circuit who also enjoy water sports, but I am a surfer, so although I don't get a lot of time to do it, but I do love the ocean, and that was part of when I was growing up, something that I really enjoyed. But what I would just like to tell the public is, The judiciary is designed to be access to the court, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that we are approachable, and you can always, I always hope that if I bump into somebody at the grocery store, please come up to me, say hello, introduce yourself, because we serve you, and we serve.
But no legal questions.
No legal questions.
Only
Yeah.
say hello,
No.
pleasantries. No legal questions.
Yeah.
So when, I want to end this. When was the last time you went surfing?
Oh man, it's been a while. Probably about 3 or 4 years ago now.
Okay.
But my little ones are now learning too, so
Okay.
we're trying to do it that way.
Oh, okay. Well, Your Honor, I want to thank you for taking the time on a Sunday, on Mother's Day, to come interview with us. It's been a pleasure. We thank you for your service to the county, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was
Thank
nice to see everybody.
Thank you.